The story begins with the scene of a red-haired child. She is trying to escape from the palace. But when she runs up to the door, she realizes that all her efforts are in vain. But what exactly happened? Let's go back a few days earlier. Our main character's name is Leticia. She is a young lady from a noble family. While Leticia is playing in her family's vast garden, suddenly her mother approaches to share some good news. She says, from now on, Leticia will be taken into the royal palace, and she will learn how to become the crown prince's bride. While Leticia's parents are delighted by this news, Leticia, however, is not happy at all. She knows she will have to leave everyone, including her closest friend, Leticia's beloved dog, and so the next day she sets off. And the one accompanying Leticia on this journey is her older brother named Nadia. The two of them must travel a long distance. At this moment, inside the carriage, Leticia has fallen asleep from exhaustion. In her dream she gazes at the stars in the sky. Suddenly she is woken up by her brother, because they have arrived at the capital. But the moment they set foot in the capital, Nadia coldly hands his little sister over to the guide. Her name is Libra, the attendant of the crown princess. Lady Libra is known to be a strict teacher, while Leticia is just a carefree child. But now she is being forced to become a bride. On the very first day, Leticia bursts into tears. She feels lost in the palace's strict environment. That night Leticia returns to her room to complain to her brother. But Nadia not only refuses to take her side, he even reminds Leticia to obey Lady Libra, so she has no choice but to comply. The next day she is introduced to a maid. From now on, Leticia will be taken care of by a girl named Lily. And at the same time, Lily is also Leticia's tutor. In the days that follow, Leticia begins her harsh training. She must learn the proper noble posture for walking and dining. And Leticia must always wake up on time. This is especially difficult for her, since she can no longer sleep in like before. After several years of strict training in the palace, Leticia has now grown up. The once crybaby young girl has now become the kind of figure Lady Libra always aimed for. Leticia exudes noble elegance, inspiring admiration from everyone, yet she still has to continue studying the world's history. Leticia always practices physical training after her lessons. This year Leticia is 17 years old, and she is supposed to become the fiancée of Crown Prince Clark. While everyone admires her, Leticia is not proud of this at all, because there is a strangely sorrowful look in her eyes. At the banquet, suddenly Crown Prince Clark publicly introduces his new lover in front of all the guests, surprising everyone, because they think Leticia has just been given an extremely long pair of cuckold's horns by the prince. And they believe the engagement between Clark and Leticia will be annulled. Immediately all eyes turn to Leticia, because they expect her to be heartbroken. But contrary to their expectations, Leticia is delighted. She flashes a bright smile like radiant sunlight, leaving everyone astonished. In the past, Leticia had talked to Nadia many times. She wanted him to cancel the engagement, but Nadia could not intervene, because he was not the one who made the decisions. And she was also fed up with her brother Nadia, so she only teased him a little. Because Leticia knew her brother couldn't help her anyway. Nadia once promised that, if Clark ever got a new lover, Leticia would be allowed to annul the engagement. And when the banquet incident happened, Leticia realized that promise had come true. Returning to the present, Leticia is overwhelmed with happiness, because she has finally been freed. Leticia runs over to thank Brianna, the girl who is Crown Prince Clark's lover, because she has helped Leticia escape this hell. Every day Leticia had to study etiquette and proper posture. It made her extremely exhausted. Now she no longer has to learn those boring things. Hearing this, Brianna is surprised by Leticia's joyful reaction, because she never thought someone who just had their lover stolen could still be this happy. But just as Leticia is about to leave, Clark calls out to her with a regretful expression. He seems like he wants to say something, but Leticia doesn't give him the chance. She simply smiles and wishes Clark and his new lover happiness. As he watches Leticia's happiness, Clark unconsciously smiles. When she returns home, Leticia shares the good news with Lily. During the 10 years she lived in the palace, she was strictly controlled. Leticia was never allowed to laugh freely or run around as she wished. Now all her pressure has disappeared. At that moment her brother Nadia returns. He tells her she should soon find another royal family for a political marriage. But he is also annoyed, because his dream of becoming the crown prince's brother is now gone. Leticia's parents also announce that her new home will be a villa in Aberta village, a peaceful rural area. Although Leticia will have fewer servants, Lily will still accompany her, which makes her extremely happy. After the talkative Leticia leaves, everyone in the castle feels that the atmosphere has lost its liveliness. They all feel regret for Leticia, because they wanted to see her and Clark live happily together. From then on in the royal palace, everyone is forbidden from mentioning Letitia's name, while Brianna has to learn etiquette in Letitia's place. Brianna also suffers the same discomfort Leticia did because the lessons are extremely strict and completely different from what she imagined. But even though it's unpleasant, Brianna can't do anything about it because Lady Lyra is always strict. Meanwhile, Leticia is enjoying a peaceful life in the countryside. After rolling around on a patch of soft grass, she happily walks toward the village square. When Leticia was still Clark's fiancée, she was constantly scolded by Lily. But since arriving in this village, she no longer fears the nagging. Leticia stops by the stream. She prepares her handmade tools to fish. Leticia wants to catch fresh fish for lunch. She is amazed that the moment she drops the bait, a fish bites. Suddenly Clark appears there as well. This makes Leticia even more surprised. Leticia catches 2 big fish. She decides to grill them directly on the riverbank to eat them hot. Seeing Leticia eat so deliciously, Clark also wants to try. But since he knows nothing about this kind of life, and Clark has always lived only within the palace, when he takes a bite of the fish, he almost burns himself. But he is also surprised, because Clark has never eaten fish this fresh before. In the palace, Clark always eats pre-prepared dishes. After finishing the meal, Leticia brings her handmade bait to the village square to sell. But when Clark learns she made the bait herself, he becomes extremely worried. He fears that Leticia might hurt her hands. But when Clark sees Letitia's life here, he feels that everyone becomes cheerful and lively around her, making Clark feel a bit guilty, because Clark had once confined Leticia in a place where she could never smile like this. After a full day of fun, she forgets the reason why Clark is even here. But when she is about to ask, Clark compliments the sheep her family owns, saying they're adorable, because he has never lived in the countryside. Everything feels new to him. In the past, Leticia never paid much attention to Clark, so she didn't realize he was this handsome. She keeps staring at Clark's face, to the point that she gets attacked by a flock of ducks. Clark then has to explain that he only came here to get some fresh air. However, Leticia assumes he must be busy with work. Clark cannot just linger around here. Clark feels she still hasn't changed since the old days. He then announces that their engagement is still valid, and soon he will bring her back to the royal palace, leaving Leticia utterly shocked, because she never imagined he would change his decision. After Clark leaves, Leticia wants to cross the ocean with Lily to run away, but Lady Lyra strictly stops her. She then runs to complain to her brother Nadia, but he is not surprised, because Clark had never discussed annulling the engagement with Leticia. Leticia searches her memory trying to find that moment, but no matter how many times she recalls it, she still can't find a single instance of Clark saying, "Cancel the engagement." This leaves Leticia frozen in shock, while Nadia becomes even happier, because he still has the chance to become the crown prince's brother-in-law. And the reason Clark brought Brianna and the royal entourage here was to make Leticia jealous, because he felt she was too indifferent toward him. Meanwhile, Letitia's love rival, Brianna, also comes to invite her back to the palace, because Brianna is frustrated and doesn't want to endure this strict training alone anymore. Leticia understands Brianna's feelings, but she doesn't want to return to that place. She wants to live her own life, but that is impossible, because Clark has declared that he only wants to have children with Leticia, causing her to scream in despair. Letitia's parents return after many years away. Leticia promises them she will complete the new training course and come back. When they hear their daughter is home, they immediately return. She is so fed up with the palace drama that she decides to escape that very night. While passing through the living room, Leticia accidentally discovers her parents enjoying fine wine. However, just as she is about to leave the house, Brianna grabs Leticia, because if Brianna doesn't bring Leticia back, Brianna will have to undergo the Crown Princess training course. Hearing that Brianna wants to find someone to marry, Leticia begs her friend to let her go. Leticia promises to help Brianna marry her annoying older brother. Brianna agrees, and Leticia gives her some confidence by telling her Nadia's favorite food. Unexpectedly, Nadia is standing behind the door hearing everything, but he doesn't stop Leticia, and she successfully escapes. When Leticia reaches the edge of the forest, suddenly Clark is already there waiting for her. He says, "My wife, you can't escape from me." The reason he came back was to discuss the color of Letitia's wedding dress, which completely drains her spirit. Today Queen Laura unexpectedly appears at the servants' quarters. She wants to ask the butler about Prince Clark's situation. She is also concerned about the chaos Leticia caused the previous day, so she wants to meet Leticia. Although the queen is now elderly, she still carries a gentle and approachable expression, making everyone find her very likable. After Leticia encounters Clark at the forest edge, She is brought back home to meet the family of her future fiancé. Immediately Leticia brings up the promise between the two brothers. But this time Nadia also cannot save her. She turns to Lily with pleading eyes. And Leticia only receives Lily's blessing for happiness, while Brianna openly celebrates. That very night, Leticia is taken back to the palace by Clark to meet the royal family. On the way, Leticia questions herself about who Clark really is. And she realizes that she only sees Clark as a fiancé. She doesn't have any romantic feelings for him. But Leticia doesn't dislike Clark either. And the only thing she truly hates is the Crown Princess training program. Hearing that makes Clark extremely happy. So he moves closer to flirt with Leticia, making her scream in panic. She remembers Brianna saying that Clark only wants to have children with her. So she pushes him away and apologizes frantically. But in reality, he only wanted to lean on her shoulder to sleep. The next morning when Leticia wakes up, she sees Clark right in front of her. He invites Leticia to visit a farm. But when they arrive at the farm, Leticia is immediately shocked, because the farm is built exactly like her hometown. Everything here looks exactly like the place she used to live, because Leticia has become a noble lady. Clark announces that she can now end the Crown Princess training course. The king has approved it, and no one in the palace can oppose it. He also declares he will not marry or have children if Leticia runs away. Right there, Clark kneels down to propose to Leticia. He promises to give her the life she truly wishes for. However, Leticia coldly refuses. She says, it's not that Leticia hates Clark, but she hates the idea of marrying into the royal family. Clark once promised to give Leticia freedom, but afterward she was still confined in the palace. Yet Clark never wanted that either. He says, only until the wedding preparations are finished. You will not be allowed to leave. Hearing that, she no longer knows what to say. Finally, the family meeting comes to an end. Returning to her room, Leticia falls asleep. In her dream, she dreams that she catches a huge fish. But it turns out that fish is actually Clark. Then the fish transforms into Clark. Suddenly everyone in the village turns into him as well, causing Leticia to wake up instantly. At this moment, a new maid has been assigned to take care of Leticia. Now she is addressed as Madam instead of young lady like before. Even though Leticia doesn't want to marry Clark, she certainly doesn't refuse the palace breakfast and luxury spa services. After bathing, the maid leads Leticia to choose gorgeous outfits, which greatly excites her. But in reality, Leticia is only acting, because she wants to find a chance to escape. And that opportunity finally arrives. Leticia pushes the maid to the ground. Leticia quickly runs toward the main entrance, forcing the maid to ring the alarm bell. The crown princess has escaped. Leticia tries to flee through the hallway, but she realizes there are too many guards. Leticia decides to escape through the window. However, she doesn't expect Clark to be waiting outside, and they both fall down at the same time, leaving Leticia with a sore bottom and caught again. Thus, Leticia's escape plan fails, but on the bright side, she still enjoys a fairly luxurious life in the palace. Leticia apologizes to the maid for what she did earlier, and Leticia asks the maid to help her change clothes, but the maid does not dare to do so. So Leticia intended to use force to solve the problem. Luckily, Clark appeared in time to stop her. And when he learned that Leticia planned to swap identities with a maid to escape, Clark could only sigh. He suddenly realized that the feelings he had for Leticia had never made her waver. So he decided that from now on he would pursue Leticia with all his might. He said, I hope Leticia can talk to me more intimately. And then Clark blurted out a series of love confessions, which made Leticia tremble in fear, while Maria felt happy for her friend, because even though she was being forced into marriage, Clark still openly expressed all his feelings for her, while Leticia still wanted to escape. After Maria left the room, Leticia quietly went to the window to admire the bright moon. Right in that beautiful scenery, Clark was also gazing at the moon from another room. At that moment, Leticia realized, night is the best time to escape. So at midnight, she broke the window and sneaked outside. But just as she was about to regain her freedom, Clark pulled her back to go buy a necklace, causing her escape plan to fail once again. After breaking the window to escape, Leticia was locked in the palace basement. Even though it was a basement, the room was still luxurious, no different from a royal chamber. It was originally used to punish nobles who dared oppose the royal family. Brianna learned that Leticia was locked up for breaking the window, so she came to visit Leticia. She was brought there by Clark to talk with Leticia, but Brianna mainly came to provoke Leticia, making Leticia furious and wanting to kick her friend out. However, Brianna refused to leave, because there was delicious food here and even a reward. Meanwhile, Leticia was frustrated, because Brianna only had to sit, eat, and scold her yet still got rewarded. Then Maria read aloud the book Brianna had brought. The book told the story of Lady Leticia suffering during the Crown Princess training, while Lily had protested. But when Leticia learned that there were still people who cared about her feelings, she became determined to complete the training so she could stay by her beloved Clark's side. Over the past few days, the story had spread throughout the entire palace. But after hearing it, Leticia only scolded, "It's ridiculous and I don't understand how this book even got published." Brianna revealed the harshness of the Crown Princess training according to Clark. And from that, in the eyes of the people, Leticia became a resilient Crown Princess. The book was published to whitewash Leticia's image, so that no one would oppose her marriage to Clark anymore. However, Leticia believed that is not good for her at all, because what she truly wanted was freedom. Brianna encouraged Leticia, "Just accept the marriage. No matter where Leticia escapes to, even to the ends of the earth, Clark will still find you. If you ignore the Clark situation, your life would be no different from royalty." And just by looking at Leticia's current demeanor, Brianna could tell she had trained harshly for many years. Leticia thought, "Anyone who went through 10 years of training could do what I did." But Brianna didn't think so, because she had also gone through the training, so she knew how difficult it was. But Leticia still refused to marry, because she wanted freedom. Leticia didn't want to marry someone she didn't love. A moment later, Nadia arrived. He came to deliver a letter and a gift from her mother. But when she learned that everyone back home was doing well, Leticia acted spoiled and asked him to take her back. But Nadia refused, even though she couldn't return home. Leticia's mother sent her the flavors of home through the muffins she baked with her own hands, which deeply moved Leticia. But when she learned her brother also contributed a bit, it made her go cold, because among them was one horrifying muffin. At that moment, the two siblings played rock, paper, scissors to pick which muffin to eat. Leticia won the first round, so she got to choose first. Luckily, both of them happened to eat the muffins their mother made in the first and second rounds. Finally, only 2 muffins were left, and one of them was the ruined muffin. While Leticia was hesitating about which one to pick, Nadia quickly grabbed the remaining muffin. As soon as they ate the muffins, they both screamed, because their mother had made not 1 but 2 extremely spicy muffins. But Leticia still felt happy. That night, after Maria left, Leticia continued her escape plan. She wandered around the basement, and Leticia discovered another underground room. She also found a book titled Prince Clark's Diary. At first, she intended to ignore it, but curiosity made her open it to read. And when she took the book out, suddenly a secret mechanism activated, revealing a hidden room behind it. But she still remained cautious. So Leticia threw the book inside first to test it. She found the room to be quite fine, so she confidently stepped in. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be Clark's secret room, and he was sitting inside, which left Leticia completely helpless, because she had walked straight into the enemy's lair. But Clark had already predicted she would find this secret basement. He immediately asked, "Leticia, what are you doing with my diary?" She instantly denied it. When Leticia was about to run back to her room, Clark closed the basement door. Suddenly he complimented Leticia's face, saying it was very cute, which made her embarrassed in this situation. Leticia immediately called Clark a worthless bastard, because they weren't even married yet and he dared to pull such tricks. And she quickly attacked Clark before he could take any action. But Clark wasn't thinking anything improper at all. Clark confessed to Leticia his dream is to marry her, and he only plans to think about other things after they're married. However, he asked for permission to kiss her, which left Leticia extremely flustered. It turned out it was just a joke from him, because teasing her was also one of Clark's dreams. After that, Leticia asked Maria to push an extremely heavy stone block in front of the bookshelf. She wanted to block the entrance to Clark's secret room. Maria found it amusing that Clark's room was right next to Leticia's. And she said, "That's true love." But Leticia didn't feel any love in this at all, because if Clark came over every night, how could she possibly stand it? One time, Leticia sensed the secret mechanism moving, but the bookshelf didn't open, which made her feel incredibly relieved. Unexpectedly, Clark casually walked in through the main door. He ordered Maria to remove the stone block blocking the bookshelf, making Leticia extremely displeased. She went to complain about this to her brother. Nadia bluntly said, "There's nothing you can do. Little sister, there's nothing wrong with a fiancé wanting to be close to Leticia." Leticia pouted and begged her brother to help, but Nadia reminded her, "If you don't want Clark to touch you, you have to say it directly. If you don't say it, nothing will change." Following her brother's advice, that night, Leticia went to Clark's room and bluntly said she doesn't want him touching her. She warned, if Clark violates that, she will never call his name again. This made Clark sad, because he really wanted Leticia to call his name. Meanwhile, she was absolutely delighted. The next morning, Leticia happily shared this joy with Brianna, while everyone else was worried. Brianna also didn't expect that Clark would easily agree to Leticia's request. She explained that because Clark loved Leticia, he valued her, and he had to do something to be loved back by Leticia. Clark only came to see Leticia when he had notified her beforehand. So he sent her a calendar marking the days he would visit, which made Leticia sick of it. Today the palace was holding a party, so Leticia was allowed to go outside, because she didn't know anyone at the party. She went to look for Clark, and saw him talking to another girl. This made Leticia sulky. She decided not to care. Then she stepped out onto the balcony and shouted loudly. Suddenly, a man in black appeared, and he knocked Leticia unconscious just as heavy rain fell. A while later, Clark received news that Leticia had been kidnapped. According to the information, the culprit was the Baron royal family, and the carriage was heading toward the western forest, where the border between the two countries lay. And if the kidnappers crossed the border, their rescue mission would become extremely troublesome. So Clark and Nadia decided to chase the carriage immediately that night. Leticia woke up and found herself locked inside the carriage. In front of her were a man in black and a little boy. But when he saw Leticia's face, the boy scolded the manservant. "You've got the wrong person," because the person he wanted was the maid Maria. Leticia angrily scolded both of them, but her mouth was gagged, so they didn't understand anything. The boy ordered the manservant to leave Leticia in the forest, but she kicked a few times and the gag just fell off. Leticia immediately ordered the two of them to take her back to the palace, because otherwise a serious problem would occur. Leticia introduced herself as the fiancée of Prince Clark, but returning now wouldn't solve anything, and they planned to leave her in the forest. Leticia couldn't be rigid, so she switched to a gentle approach. She offered information about Maria to negotiate with the boy. In the end, they had to untie her. The boy was actually the third prince of the Baron Kingdom, but just by glancing at his expression, Leticia knew he had fallen in love with Maria at first sight. In fact, Maria was the daughter of a duke from the Baron Kingdom, but after her family fell from power, she had left to work as a maid. By chance, today, Louis also received an invitation to the banquet, so this boy ordered the servant to take Maria back. Although Louis knew this was wrong, after hearing Louis's story, Leticia commented that he was experiencing unrequited love, so she teased the boy, but he kept denying it. And when he learned the other party's identity, Leticia came up with another escape plan. She wanted both of them to take her to Baron for a simple life, but the servant wanted to bring her back to the royal palace. While Louis only cared about having Maria, Leticia invited both of them to try the kingdom's seafood dishes. Louis knew nothing about life, so when he looked at the terrifying dishes, he showed a worried expression. But when Louis tried a bite, he almost choked on a bone, and Louis blamed Leticia for trying to assassinate him, which forced the servant to remove the bone for him. Leticia urged both of them to quickly head to the border, but Louis refused, because he had the habit of bathing at the end of the day. Actually, he also didn't want to bathe in this filthy inn. Louis only wanted to bathe in the royal bathroom. Night had fallen, so Louis decided to rest here. Tomorrow morning they would depart for Baron, and once they returned to the country, they would consider Leticia's matter. At this point, the inn only had 2 rooms left, and the youngest boy refused to stay with the servant. But Leticia also refused to let the other one sleep together, because she was a girl and the prince's fiancée. In the end, these two quarreled again, so the servant had to stand outside the room to keep watch. Here Leticia decided to escape, because this place was a foreign kingdom. She thought, just run away first, then deal with everything later. However, just as she was about to escape, Clark appeared at the right moment. Clark said he saw Leticia being kidnapped, so he is here to protect her. Leticia had no choice but to tell Clark the whole story, which made him very jealous of the other two, because they could be close to her. At this moment, Louis appeared and complained that no one was serving him here. He saw Clark and thought he kidnapped Leticia, so he stepped up to protect her, which left Leticia speechless. So all 4 of them started arguing loudly, which made Nadia angry, because if the prince's fiancée being kidnapped was revealed, the situation between the two kingdoms would become tense. So Nadia fabricated that Louis wanted to befriend Clark, so he befriended Leticia first, and he also accepted it. After everyone left, Clark put on a very sulky face. When he found out Leticia shared a bowl with someone else, Leticia intended to scold him for something else, but she realized it was a bit over the line, so she apologized to him. She then understood how much he cared for her. Yet Leticia's plan to escape remained unchanged. This time the one stopping her was Nadia's brother. Leticia defiantly resisted, But Nadia advised, Clark truly loves you. If you stop trying to escape, you will soon have your freedom. He just wants you to have someone who makes you happy. In the end, Nadia wanted Leticia to return to the royal palace. The next morning, everyone was delighted to see the lady had returned to the palace. However, their joy ended when they found out Leticia brought along an attachment, Louis. He decided to study abroad here to be able to see Maria. Leticia didn't want to be disturbed at all. Nadia realized Leticia liked lively environments, so he decided to let Louis study here, because he was quite noisy. However, amidst this lively atmosphere, Leticia wondered why Clark wasn't present. Meanwhile, Brianna was walking in the palace, and she accidentally saw Clark talking to a white-haired girl, and the two radiated a strong sense of intimacy. Brianna inadvertently got involved in this complicated marriage matter, which made her annoyed. Meanwhile, Leticia was having fun with her new friend. Leticia introduced to everyone, this is an angel and a demon. The one considered the demon was Princess Laura. She was her future mother-in-law, and the angel was second Prince Matthias. Finally, Clark's younger brother. Leticia saw Matthias's super adorable appearance, which made her ecstatic, because she loved cute things. So Leticia intended to kiss Matthias on the cheek, but Clark immediately stopped her. That soft cheek is mine. At this moment, Brianna asked Leticia, do you still intend to have children with Clark? Hearing this almost made Leticia choke. She thought, right now, it's too early to talk about this, while she was considering canceling the engagement. But no one believed her, because whenever the topic of having children came up, Leticia's face would turn red. Upon hearing this, she tried to change the subject, but she didn't completely deny it. Brianna intended to talk about Clark cheating on Leticia, but she stopped herself. Meanwhile, Louis kept flirting with Maria, because if it were the usual Brianna, she would have teased them. But today she was more thoughtful, which made Leticia feel a little strange. So she decided to tell Leticia about how she saw Clark being intimate with a mysterious woman. Leticia immediately thought of the girl who dared to disdain her at the party the other day. Maria thought, Clark is not that kind of person. But Leticia was still a bit uneasy. While she was locked in the basement, her future fiancé was caressing another girl. Moreover, 4 days had passed, and Clark hadn't come to visit her. So today she decided to confront him out of jealousy. While Maria tried to stop her, Leticia still sought Brianna's help. Leticia said, I'll pay you double. Hearing this, Brianna immediately agreed. She changed her mind faster than an ex-lover. But it wasn't just Brianna. Louis also wanted to join in to show his good side to Maria. Since Leticia was not allowed to leave the room, Brianna became the leader of the jealousy squad. She promised to wholeheartedly investigate Clark's fidelity, and she wouldn't side with Leticia just for money. Brianna asked the other two young ladies, and she learned that Clark not only danced with that girl, he also wiped her mouth for her. Moreover, that girl was often invited into Clark's room, and some people even saw them hugging. Hearing this, Leticia was so frustrated that she hurt herself. She wanted to cancel the engagement, but for some reason, she still cared about Clark. In the past, Maria had been recruited by Clark as a maid, and when she learned that Leticia came from a familiar family in the neighboring kingdom, seeing Clark's actions radiate charm, Maria admired him greatly, so she didn't believe that Clark was cheating. As soon as Maria returned, Leticia quickly hugged her, because Leticia felt lonely without anyone by her side. She was originally someone hired by Clark. Maria would always support his love, but after serving Leticia for some time, she also hoped that her friend would be happy. Therefore, Maria and Brianna assisted in Leticia's jealousy plan. At this time, Leticia could leave the palace, but she chose to stay to confront Clark. Hearing that Clark was at the shopping district, Leticia decided to disguise herself as a commoner, and she went along with Brianna. So the two quickly spotted Clark talking to that girl at a store. Brianna noticed they kept a distance, and they weren't kissing as rumored. After some time of observing, they saw Clark lead the girl into a boutique. Brianna encouraged Leticia to bravely step in to catch him in the act. But when they entered, the girl quickly disappeared. At this moment, Clark asked Leticia why she was there, but she wanted to know the identity of the other person first. So the two argued for quite a while. They couldn't resolve the issue. So Leticia bluntly said she learned about Clark cheating from close friends. While Clark was a bit surprised, he hadn't even had a chance to explain. Suddenly, someone nearby introduced himself. His name was Neil, a duke from a neighboring country. He was also Prince Louis's royal uncle. Because he wore jewelry, others easily misunderstood. Luckily, Clark and Neil were only conducting diplomatic relations between the two countries. After realizing Clark wasn't like that at all, Leticia was very embarrassed, because she had overthought everything. She apologized to Clark for dragging everyone into this trouble. In contrast, Clark apologized to her. He also took this opportunity to invite Leticia on a secret date. And she agreed. Afterwards, Clark pushed through the crowd to buy his wife a glass of fruit juice. While they kissed indirectly over the glass, Clark was delighted while Leticia was embarrassed. They used a chair's footrest after their enjoyable moments together. Clark revealed he wanted to preserve this peaceful moment so Leticia could think differently about him. And to commemorate their first date, Clark gave Leticia a cute music box. And he was very happy to know she liked it. At this moment, Leticia confessed to Clark, "I don't understand much about feelings, so it will take time to be with you. If you get tired of me, you can run away, and I will always chase after you." So they shared joyful moments together. At that very moment, the servant noticed a figure behind Louis, which startled him, and Louis dropped the entire box of macarons. Suddenly, the candle was extinguished by a strange gust of wind, which scared both of them to the point of tears. Unexpectedly, a ghost approached them asking to share the macarons, which made them even more terrified. Louis told everyone about being caught by the ghost. When people realized ghosts were real, Leticia immediately demanded to catch the ghost and keep it. Brianna didn't believe in ghosts, but her hand was trembling, and the story of Louis disappearing was true. So the group decided to go look for him. The servant led everyone to where he had dropped the box of macarons. Brianna acted like the bravest one, but when she heard a noise, she got scared out of her wits. The servant lost all spirit upon seeing the box of pastries. He and Maria were taken back to a room, while the others split into two groups. The lower floor was searched by Brianna and Nadia, and the upper floor was assigned to Clark and Leticia. Leticia promised Maria, "If we find the ghost, he'll be taken home and kept." At this moment, Clark told a ghost story to scare Leticia, but she wasn't afraid and even found it enjoyable. However, when she learned Clark had a fever for 3 days and nights because of the story, Leticia worried and hurried the search for Louis. Meanwhile, the couple Brianna and Nadia found an empty room. Suddenly, a light flashed, startling Brianna. She insisted something was on the other side, and she made Nadia scout ahead, but Nadia screamed in fear. Leticia happened to spot a shadow standing in the courtyard, but when Clark looked, the shadow had vanished. Finally, Clark confronted the ghost in white, and Brianna saw him hanging upside down from the ceiling like a spider. Terrified, she ran out into the hallway, and she stepped on a mechanism that summoned an iron coffin. At this moment, Neil, the guy who liked cross-dressing, suddenly jumped up when he heard the strange noise. Leticia, Clark, Maria, and Neil reunited. At this point, Neil said he had just dreamed of Louis at the end of the stairs. So the group walked a bit and then reached a fork in the path. The group split into two teams to continue. Leticia and Clark had walked a few steps when they heard Maria scream and quickly turned back. Even though he was a prince, Clark didn't know this staircase existed in the castle. Everyone arrived at the source of the scream, while only one of Maria's shoes remained and she had been swallowed by a white creature. Neil was also captured, causing the whole group to worry. Suddenly, Leticia discovered a secret door, but when Clark stepped on a mechanism, a cold gust of wind sucked them both in, so Clark used his body to shield Leticia. They were taken away, while Leticia tried to activate the mechanism, but it malfunctioned, making her blush in frustration. After studying it, Leticia found a balcony with a special switch. She pulled with all her strength and fell into the furnace, covering her entire body in dust. Suddenly, she shouted loudly, "Return my beloved Lord Clark." Suddenly, a shadow appeared, making Leticia swing her stick wildly. She tried to calm herself. Leticia realized the ghost was Brianna and Princess Laura. Meanwhile, Clark and Maria remained safe. Here, spider threads hung Nadia up in the air. In fact, it was Princess Laura's research. She used it to treat joint pain. Actually, this room connected the servant quarters and the restricted area, and anyone who stepped on the trap would fall here. Laura had remodeled it into a beauty room. At this moment, Louis was soaking in water. He didn't understand what was happening, because suddenly Louis was scolded by Brianna, while everyone else was having fun in the basement. Suddenly, a black figure ate all the macarons above, and it was most likely the young Louis's servant. After some time living obediently in the palace, finally Letitia's room was unlocked. Now she could tend to her flower garden, and she temporarily left the room she had been confined in for so long. Currently, Letitia's old room had been renovated, but she still chose to stay in the basement of the palace. Despite the poor conditions, Leticia felt this place was more familiar and peaceful, because it was closest to Clark. While Brianna and Maria were present, Leticia curiously asked them about love. The question surprised both friends. Maria replied, She hopes for a love that transcends status and money. But her ideal type is a strong, muscular man. Brianna admitted that she had once loved, but it was her first love, and Brianna always kept it in her heart as a beautiful memory. Whenever she recalled it, Brianna felt warm and full of energy. She occasionally wondered where that person was now, and whether he was living well. She hoped to always remain beautiful so they could meet again. However, Brianna also joked, now she just hopes for a rich guy to come and take her away. On the other hand, Maria still held a romantic dream, to be taken away by a knight. That night, Leticia tossed and turned, unable to sleep. She pondered the question, what is love? But Leticia still couldn't understand it. While wandering around the room, Leticia accidentally opened the rabbit-shaped music box that Clar had once given her. Then she began to dance to the gentle melody. In the spacious room, Leticia immersed herself in every note. She reached out as if holding Clar's hand, and then she suddenly realized he wasn't there. At that moment, her heart raced strangely, because perhaps this thrilling feeling in her heart was love. The next morning, Leticia returned to her old room, and she saw a painting of two children placing flower crowns on each other. But when she looked closely, Leticia realized the two children were herself and Clar as kids under the red maple tree. Back then, when she first arrived at the palace, Leticia had asked her father for permission to climb the maple tree. But she was refused. Determined, Leticia secretly climbed anyway. She enjoyed the fresh air from above, but being too tired, Leticia fell asleep on a branch. And when she woke up, the one who woke her was Clar. Those sweet memories suddenly flooded back, making Leticia emotional. She realized 10 years of being tormented by the princess training program had made her nearly forget all these beautiful memories. But when Clar called her name, Leticia was startled. She lost her balance and fell. Luckily, Clar rushed in to catch her. Now Leticia climbed the tree again. She wanted to revisit old memories. And coincidentally, Clar was also there. 10 years ago, Clar had been very tired, because she had to study and flatter other nobles. While strolling to relax, he accidentally saw a little girl sleeping soundly on the tree. She looked extremely vulnerable. He tried to wake her, causing Leticia to panic and fall. And he caught her. Suddenly, Leticia's father appeared afterward. He asked his daughter to apologize to Clar. But it was Leticia's innocent smile that made Prince Clar's heart flutter from the very first moment. Returning to the present, Clar asked Leticia to climb down from the tree. But instead of obeying, she suddenly jumped straight down and fell into his arms. The jump was very dangerous, but she trusted that Clar would surely catch her, because they had countless beautiful memories under this tree. Back then, Clar had made a flower crown and used it to propose to Leticia, and she had agreed. Many years had passed. The garden was no longer as it had been, but the feelings in their hearts had not faded. At this moment, Clark said, I have loved you since the very first times we met. And from then until now, I feel I cannot live without you. Suddenly hearing this confession from Clark, she was extremely surprised. Leticia realized that she was actually the first love of the prince. So Leticia smiled. She softly replied, I like you too, Clar, and thank you for never giving up on me. After their sweet confession, Leticia thought she would have a few peaceful days before the wedding. But no, she had to face countless tasks. First, trying on dresses, choosing flowers, and arranging the seating. Finally, she also had to learn royal etiquette. She increasingly felt the pressure, which made Leticia come up with the idea to run away again. At this moment, the opening scene was very humorous. Clark and his father sat silently staring at each other, while Leticia ran out of the palace holding her dress. And then she was caught by the guards within 10 minutes, making Clark only sigh, while the king could only laugh helplessly. At that moment, Clark suddenly asked his father a question that stunned everyone. Father, have you ever thought, if you were not the king, could you live like a normal person, just as the atmosphere became serious? Suddenly, Nadia appeared. He came in carrying a stack of books. Nadia happened to overhear Clark talking about wanting to give up the throne, and that he wanted to live a normal life with Leticia, which startled Nadia. He immediately went to tell Prince Louis, who listened and appeared annoyed. Louis warned Nadia, keep this secret, otherwise there will be big trouble. Yet Louis himself couldn't help but tell Maria. She was equally shocked, causing the teacup in her hand to shatter. At this time, Louis originally planned to take Maria home, but she shook her head. No, I have to stay, and help Leticia and Clark find true happiness. Afterwards, Maria told Lily about this. The two discussed it while worrying, because if Clark truly gave up the throne, the two of them would flee back to the countryside, and they would need a considerable amount of money. Lily then told Brianna about it, and as usual, Brianna overreacted a bit, if they really run away. Perhaps neither of them could survive. Despite saying that, Brianna still really wanted to help Leticia. She just regretted that she couldn't act without direct orders. But then she went and told the other two young ladies in the palace. They didn't forget to remind her. Keep it a secret. As a result, the rumor spread faster than the wind. Everyone started gossiping that Clark stole the national treasure ring and ran away with Leticia for love. This news reached Neville. He was the kingdom's treasurer. Neville heard that the national treasure ring is a gift symbolizing friendship between the two countries. And if it disappears, it will bring great disaster. At this moment, he also broke into a cold sweat. At the same time, Nadia handed over the pile of books to Lily, and he noticed something odd about her, so he called Brianna to ask. But she didn't want to tell. In the end, Nadia threatened her, causing Brianna, embarrassed, to push him into the water basin. At this time, Neville also told Nathan about this, but Nathan just laughed. I know. And so does the king. Meanwhile, Lily and Maria quietly discussed a plan together. They wanted to help Leticia and Clark overcome difficulties. Yet the news reached Lady Lyra. She was the one who had painstakingly trained Leticia to become a perfect princess. But upon hearing that her beloved student wanted to run away, Lady Lyra collapsed, and her tears fell as well, because she thought, could it be that all my years of effort are now lost to the waves, from a small rumor like a drop of water? It had now spread into a vast lake. All of Leticia's friends believed that she and Clark were really planning to run away. They began planning to support them, while Leticia had no idea why everyone suddenly became so secretive. That night, Nadia gathered everyone to find out who started the rumor. After a heated debate, he admitted that he was the first to hear Clark say he would give up the throne. Coincidentally, Leticia overheard this conversation. She angrily stormed off to find Clark. At that moment, Clark was talking with the king in the main hall. Suddenly, Leticia pushed the door open. Her face flushed red. Why would you give up the throne for me? Didn't you say you would protect peace for everyone and now you plan to run away so cowardly? But upon hearing her words, Clark remained silent, while the king slightly smiled. In truth, Clark had thought a lot. Before, he only wanted to keep Leticia by his side. But now, to protect her smile, he was willing to give up wealth and power. Clark wanted to live truly. To love genuinely, not just be a prince bound by ceremonial duties. At this moment, Leticia understood that, making her blush. She stammered a few words and ran out of the palace. But this time it was out of embarrassment, not fear, which made the king laugh. He turned to Clark and said, go after her quickly, or she might really run away. And then, after all the misunderstandings and chaos, the wedding day finally arrived. Because Leticia had eaten a little too much over the past time, putting on the wedding dress became a small battle. She had to ask her friends to help pull the zipper and adjust the dress. Finally, under the sparkling light of the hall, Leticia walked together with Clark. Amidst the gentle music and radiant faces, she recalled all the memories with Clark from their first meeting. Their arguments, up to tears and laughter. Now she no longer wanted to run away. At this moment, Clark smiled. He gently held her hand and gave a sweet kiss. That was the moment Leticia realized. This time she truly had no way to run away. So this anime ends here. If you want me to review another series, comment below. Oni thanks you all, and this is the motivation for me to continue in the future. Today's video ends here. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to support Oni-chan in future videos. Thank you for watching. Love always.